All right. Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Welcome,
everyone.
welcome to Trauma, Truth, and Talks. Go ahead, Nina.
Wow, I'm so excited for this topic. Yeah, so today we're talking about guides and angels. So I'm really excited to talk about this topic because Isel is the person who hmm, brought not this idea, but brought this fact into my life, into my world. I identified that, and then I have been opening myself up to communicating with my spirit team and angels, and calling on them when I need help.
Mhm.
And so it's been really fun so far. But I am of the group or of the human group that sometimes questions and doubts and wonders, like, am I really hearing them, and how to hear them and how to listen. So I think this is going to be a great conversation.
So, angels and guides. Okay, so I want to kind of talk about what they are and sort of like the differences between the two as I know it. And so it really is as I know it in terms of my connections to angels and guides. But, initially when I was first learning about them, it was just from teachers, other teachers who said, "Hey, by the way, you have guides." And I was like, "I have what?" I have guides. What do you
Yeah.
mean I have guides? Is that like my grandma who died? Like, I was very confused by what, who, and how that all worked. And it's been sort of this both run parallel. I'm gathering information from other people who've kind of figured out how to do this, how to connect to guides, to discern between my voice and their voice.
Mhm.
And then the other part of it is just my own deep sort of exploration and my relationship with them. But first, I want to begin with explaining that angels and guides are also a part of the separation from source. And that's what a lot of people don't know. So, source is what some people call God, consciousness, universe, whatever that all that is, right? In order for an infinite essence, because it really isn't a being, it just is this essence. In order for this infinite, all knowing essence to know itself, it has to separate a part of itself. And so that in the separation is all of the structures that we have come to know and not know, because I think we're very silly to believe that we are the only ones who are like in existence. It's very silly to believe that. And I think what happens is there's the all that is, and it separates itself. And in the separation is also the structures in spirit, in our experience in spirit. And so, what I mean by that is, have you ever heard the term Christ consciousness?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The reason why we say Christ consciousness is because we experience Jesus.
Uh-huh.
And so Christ consciousness is this experience of Jesus's essence,
Mhm.
basically,
Mhm.
right? But other galaxies, unless they experience someone like Jesus, they're not calling it Christ consciousness. They're calling it something different. Okay.
Mhm.
So we need to understand that we're coming through the lens of our own human experience. And so the connection, kind of like, I think it's like a system of communication, was developed so that we could connect to, it's almost like in Course in Miracles, it was through the Holy Spirit. That was what was often said, that the Holy Spirit is our connection to, from the human form to source.
Mhm.
And so the angels and the guides are all a part of that system as well. Okay, so they are part of the separation. The second thing is that there are lots and lots and lots of angels, and there are many, many archangels. I work specifically with like the 12 archangels, the primary archangels that I'm most familiar with. But there are angels, like angels upon angels. And then there are guides. So guides um, are typically, they're not their essence, I guess. I don't know how else to describe this because there's no form, but they have never they've never been human. Okay.
Okay.
And oftentimes your guides have been with you lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And so, and they're with you at all times. They're with you and with others because they're not, like you can be anywhere in all things because there is no time and space on the other side. That's also hard to understand.
Mm-hmm.
But these guides, and everyone has at least two,
Okay.
at least. Some have more than that. And we also have to remember there's no gender. Like gender's a construct that we've created here. But there is this balance between masculine and feminine energy, which has nothing to do with our genitals. People always confuse that.
Yeah.
So some, like I have 3 guides that I work closely with, and one, and it's funny because their names don't really matter on the other side. Like names aren't a thing, but they matter to us because
Yes.
that's how we identify.
Mm-hmm.
And so my 3 guides are Bobby, Anthony, and Soraya. And Bobby is the one who always steps forward first and quick. Like he's the one that always, and Anthony is very soft and very, I think more into that feminine energy. And so I have that balance between the two, that very like straightforward, tell me like it is. And then I've got Anthony kind of hanging out in the back, like waiting for me to call upon him. And then Soraya is really new to me. I think obviously she's been there for a very long time, but she just became I just became really aware of her. And there is this fierceness about her that I really appreciate. And so I kind of have conversations with them all the time. And so they're kind of like my immediate connection that I have. And then angels and guides, even though they hang out with you and you can ask them to, or I'm sorry, angels, you can ask Archangel Michael to be with you, to stay with you, to never leave you. Like you can make those requests. They're usually ones that I call upon when I need or want support, assistance, insight, when I'm doing readings, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's the 2. Now, most angels have not been in human form. Okay. Some have, but most have not. Their role is really to be sort of the in-between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I am like so fascinated. Can you share with us? I know this is different for everybody because they'll have different clairs, right? This is my assumption. But how do you communicate with them? Is it a vibration? Is it a thought? And also, if it is a thought, how do you distinguish between your ego, your highest self, and the angel or guide?
Yeah. So the discernment piece is really a matter of practice. It really, and learning to trust yourself a little bit more, because I think it's very, very natural in the beginning, at least it was for me, to feel like I was losing my mind. Like I really was thinking like I'm hearing voices and, I'm like, do I have schizophrenia? I mean, not telling me to do something bad, right?
Yeah.
Like you do start to think like there's something honest, like going wrong with me. But for me, because what you mentioned was everyone has different clairs. Well, we all have the same clairs, but some of them are more prominent than others. Okay. So my primary clair, which is clairaudient, and there's like 11. I mean, there's like a lot of them that we know of. I'm clairsentient was my very first one. And I think clairsentient goes along with being an empath. It's like you develop that skill empathically. Because it's what it is you get sensations at the body, like you feel things, you can feel, and that I wasn't consciously aware of it, but that was my primary clair. And then my second one is clairaudient. So I hear. And for me, the way that I started to make connection to the other side was through channeled writing, was through automatic writing. And so I just took pen to paper after a friend of mine said, I'm like, I feel like I have all this built up energy and I don't know what to do with it. And it almost feels like I can't breathe. And she goes, I wonder if they're trying to communicate with you. And so she's like, just start writing, write anything that you want,
Mm-hmm.
and just allow the pen to just do what it needs to do. And so I was like, okay, I didn't even know what to expect from that. In the beginning, it's awkward because you feel like you're trying to force it. And
Yeah.
and then you're like, what do I write? And then like, should I ask questions? And you just need to write. So I just started writing random things like how my day was going, what I was thinking about. And then all of a sudden, midpoint through, the writing started to change. And then there was like messages coming through my head, through my brain, that I knew I wouldn't say. And I was like, I don't even know what that word, like I would never use that language. Like that just doesn't sound like me. But then you really start to second guess yourself and wonder, is that really me? Um, so that practice is really important initially, even when you're second guessing yourself, even when you think that, you're not really communicating and you just think that you're creating it yourself. You have to practice getting into that rhythm. And then I started to really start to feel into my body. So when messages were coming through, I would feel into my body and go, okay, how do I feel with this message? Or how is this, does it resonate within me at a deep level? And that's how I started to learn to discern. So my ego thoughts and that coming in via ego felt um, a little cold or maybe somewhat judgy or a little off-putting. Kind of like when you're having a conversation with somebody and it's just a conversation.
Yeah.
It's just, or maybe you're talking and you're gossiping about somebody and you're like that weird kind of undercurrent. What's different when it's coming from spirit is that it feels safe, secure. No, there isn't any kind of urgency.
Okay.
It's supportive. And so that's why really tapping into our physical bodies is so important because it helps us with that discernment.
Got it. Okay. So what I hear you saying is that we need to be in the practice of connecting. And so for me, that would be writing.
Right.
But I don't think I've had that practice. I mean, I journal in the mornings, but not regularly.
Mm-hmm.
So when you sit down to write, just write whatever, and then be in the
I
flow of
did.
it. Okay. That's
So I did, and the reason why I did is because I felt like this pressure. And then I realized after I started to really connect to spirit, like people who have crossed over, particularly, that was their way of trying to communicate with me. And so I realized that was the energy I was feeling. What I say to most folks is you can even start with like a question, like, what would you like for me to know today? And then you just start writing how your day is going or what you plan for the day. And then just notice if any other stream of thoughts come through, or even notice if you have the inclination to write something.
I love that idea because I have done that question with like just sitting in stillness. And my mind is always waiting to see something like a visual or something. And I'm just sitting there. And so think I'm distracted by the waiting of the like, okay, I want to see something. And I don't have a lot of visuals in my meditation. So it's kind of like I'm waiting for nothing. It's just seeing like darkness, right? So I like that idea because it feels doable and it feels, it feels like, yeah, just doable. And it actually sounds kind of fun. It's like, okay, what are my thoughts on how I'm feeling today anyway? And then let's connect, right? But you said something really important that I want people to hear is that we also have to connect to our body at some point, right? So I call it like, connecting to the body so we can have a clear channel. So feeling your emotions, expressing your emotions, processing your emotions, right? Not pushing them down. And then now we have, what you might call, what you're calling is like, you had a lot of energy in your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like to do embodied movement, like put on a song and move my body to the song, but not like dance, but move the body to the song wherever it wants to go. What do you have? What do you do? What's your practice?
I do that as well.
Okay.
I really like to do a lot of body scanning. And so what I do is I kind of go from either, depending on how I'm feeling, so from top down or bottom up. And
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of imagine myself checking in with each part of my body, and then I get into the chakras. And so, and start to activate them. So when I activate them, what I'm doing is I'm just asking them to either spin or open or close. So, or like be this open as opposed to this open or vice versa. And so I do a lot of like checking in with my body in that way, scanning it, noticing anything in terms of sensations in the body. Um, I think the relationship that we have with our body is an integral part of being a clear channel, of being able to connect without our own stuff getting in the way of
Mm-hmm.
that connection.
Yeah. It's really.
Um, That's something I was going to say about the writing, I'm trying to think what I was going to say about the angels and guides. I felt like they were trying to come in and tell me something. So hold on for just a second.
Okay.
Okay. So what they're saying to me is that they're in a constant state of communicating with us. Sometimes we think it is our own voice. And what they're describing is sometimes we chatter a lot in our heads. And so they're saying to pause at times, and instead of like going, oh, I need to just stop all the chatter in my head, even ask yourself the question, who's talking to me right now? Because
Um,
you might think it's you, or it might be them actually communicating, and you think, I hear my own voice. That's the part that's really tricky, because you do hear your own voice. Most of us, anyway, hear our own voice initially. It
okay.
sounds like us. And then you brought up another point about you don't see things in terms of images. A lot of people do not. But the challenge with someone who's very analytical in their thinking is that they often are trying.
Yeah.
And so the trying is actually a block.
Okay.
You're expecting something, you're expecting to see something, you're waiting for, it's like you're trying so hard that it blocks the channel. And
Yeah.
so really it's the state of getting into this relaxation and allowing. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like opening a flower up, right? You just open it up and you're just in that open space
Yeah.
without any expectation of a visual, a sound, a sensation. You're just open. And I think more than anything, that's the most significant practice, is learning to just simply be open.
Yeah, and I love how you said like the trying will block you, because sometimes I receive what I call downloads when I'm driving and I have no sound on and I'm just going on a road trip and I'm not trying.
Mhm.
I'm just like
Yeah.
in the flow of driving, and I will receive a message or something during that time, and there's this knowing that it's a message and it's not like something that I just thought about. So I'm not trying at all. It's like, here I am. I'm in the flow of driving, right?
And there are times when you have said, when we're in conversation, and you'll say, oh, what's coming to me right now?
Yes. Yeah.
But what's coming to me right now is very much them communicating with you. See, we have this notion because we watch people like me, like who are mediums, or even if you're on any of the other social medias where they're like doing quick readings with people and there's like a direct connection. So you see the experience of like what I just did, connecting. they're in constant communication with us, and we just need to learn how to listen better.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's just
Mhm.
really getting outside of the perspective that it's supposed to look like that, like the pause that I do
Yeah.
and the thing that I do where I'm like, okay, talk to me. And the other little thing too, and I think I've shared this in one of our talks, is that the ego, I think maybe it was with Mark, the ego doesn't really learn. The ego keeps us in the state of seeking.
Yeah.
Our highest truest self, which is the one that's in part of that separation from God, because there has to be a separation. There has to be, because the infinite can't understand itself, can't know itself. There has to be a separation in order for it to understand itself, and it's understanding itself through us, or knowing itself, not understanding, knowing itself through us. And so when we get creative hits, when we get like creative ideas, when we like, are on in that zone and on point, that's not our ego self doing that. It's our highest level bringing in that information, that support, that guidance, that vision. And so there is this stream of communication that's happening. We just have to learn to notice it better.
Mhm. I have questions, but I know we have to be mindful of our time today and end on time. So here are my questions, and if you're watching this and you have questions, I want you to drop them in the chat, the comment section, so we can come back. But first of all, the question I have is like, wait. There's separation between God and our highest self. I don't think maybe it's not a question. It just really landed for me in a new way as you said that, because I think, when we learn we are an aspect of God, then we go into the spiritual world and we hear that, I am God, right? But if I can understand that my highest self is also separated, and I don't want to use up, but like there is a separation between my highest self and God. Is that what you're saying? Or the universe, or all knowing?
It is God who separated itself. So
Ah.
source separate, because source is infinite, the
Mhm.
all-knowing. Okay. The all I'm doing I'm
Hearts.
doing my
You
own heart.
did
So,
hearts. It's doing it.
so God, source, all that is the all-knowing, but it's an infinite essence that can't really know itself, because it simply is. It just is. So
Right.
in order for it to know itself, it needs to separate into finite beings or finite experiences, and then it moves through those experiences to understand itself through the lens of us, extra dimensional beings, angels. It's like we're all essence and aspects of God. So in truth, we are God,
Right.
but we also have a persona, and
Okay.
angels have their own roles as well, and so do guides. So each one of us we are God, because that's where we come from, that's what we are. But in the separation, we also have adopted this ego.
Right. That's
And
helpful.
yes, and where we get wonky is we believe that we are independent of source, and we are not independent of source. We are uh, we directly come from source, because source is working through us.
Right. Okay. That's helpful. Thank you for that. Okay. Now comes like a really fun question. We have like 2 minutes to answer this question. I was watching somebody on TikTok and they were talking about angels and guides, and they were talking about how they were like talking crap to their angels and guides. And I was laughing my butt off. And so my question is like, do they have feelings? Which I don't think they do, because do they have ego? I imagine they don't. But like, how do you talk to them? Maybe we think we have to say like, dear, or like like how we used to pray.
Yeah, no, we're taught that there are certain ways that we need to talk to, like, well, yeah, I mean, we're taught like elders. These are the way we're supposed to talk to elders, the way you talk to the priest, right? No, none of that matters. Literally none of that matters.
Okay.
You just start a conversation. And Archangel Michael can be a bit he can be a little feisty, I guess the word is. They have a sense of humor, and you just say it like it is. What the fuck is happening right now, Archangel Michael? Like, I don't understand. Like, literally, you can do that. You don't have to be like, oh, thank you so much. Like, you don't need to, like, let go of all of that.
Yeah, they're like, you need to be grateful. And it's funny that you said he's a little feisty because, or Archangel Michael, no he, but like, yeah, that there's spiciness, because I get the sense of Archangel Michael that way too. And the first time that I like connected with him, it was a little bit of humor,
Uh-huh.
right? I was like, oh, but I asked Archangel Michael to protect me when I'm afraid, right? To stand by the door, things like that. And so it's interesting that he's feisty.
Yeah. Snarky, feisty. And they all come through based on our own lens too.
Oh.
So we're going to each have our own different experience of them. Yeah.
So fun. Share with us your thoughts on this episode of Trauma Talks and Truths. We want to hear, like, what's your experience, and where do you feel confused, like me? I often will find myself in confusion, but also I know that confusion is limiting me as well. Just allow and surrender and get in the flow is my
ask the questions.
Yeah.
If you all ask questions here, then we can come back and I can totally work through and start answering those questions for you.
Yes. Awesome.
All right, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Have a good day. We'll see you Monday.
Oh, yeah. No session tomorrow. We'll see you on Monday.